Cam and Al, welcome to the Fitness and Lifestyle Podcast, fellas.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, mate. Good to be here.
Absolute pleasure. Now, usually when I get guests on the show, we're talking about a topic that I'm all over, and today I've got absolutely fuck all idea. I'm really looking forward to this one. And just before we get stuck in the episode, for everyone who's tuned in, we're not just going to be talking about investing in property, although it will be a touching point early on. Obviously, it'd be rude not to, but I also want to touch on mindset, what you guys do for your physical health and fitness outside of work as well, and how you balance, family life and work and make it all happen. So,
yep.
We'll kick things off. Just, we briefly spoke just then before I hit record about how you both got into the industry and what your pathway was. So I wouldn't mind just touching on that again, just quickly for the listeners to get an understanding of how you boys both ended up in the position you're in at the moment. So maybe, Cam, if you want to jump in first and give us a rundown.
Yeah, no worries. As we mentioned before, Dan, Elle and I both came from pretty poor backgrounds. There was no silver spoon handed our way, but I think because I came from quite a poor background in the sense that my folks lost their family home and their business early days, and kids are pretty resilient, you roll with it. I realised that I wanted a better financial future for myself and my future kids than I had. So I was probably lucky, came across Al and met his old man, his old man is a successful investor and property developer. And Al's old man, Steve, grabbed us by the scruff of the neck when we were, young kids, early 20s, and taught us how to buy property, leverage the equity off it, do it again and again and again and again. And that's probably led us to being able to have a lot of balance in life. We probably, as Al attests to, we're both pretty motivated guys. Like we would have succeeded. We just would have made a lot of fuck ups along the way to get us there. Yeah. So I think reducing risk, having someone to guide you on the way was really, it was beneficial to us. It's allowed us to go on, have 4 months a year holiday. We've set up film production companies in the US. We've, done a range of different businesses, but really, mate, property's one thing, but if rubber bands gave me strong growth and good cash flow, I'd be an expert at rubber bands. So property's a means to an end to give me the lifestyle I want.
Unreal. Al, how about you, mate?
Yeah, my story, and Cam probably touched on a part of it, but I guess I'll go back a bit earlier than when Cam and I met. We actually met working at Safeway. We had sort of part-time jobs together when we were younger. But all through school, I was pretty active in sport, pretty high achiever, and did well at sport. I did my knee just when I turned 18. It sort of derailed my dreams of being an NBA player.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to happen, but I like to think so. And I sort of found myself...
That's the only reason, right?
Sorry, mate?
That's the only reason why you didn't make it, right?
That's the only reason. The only reason being 18. So I was one of these kids through school that wasn't overly, great, doing schoolwork and that type of thing. So my part-time job at Safeway led me to a full-time job at Safeway, and I got promoted at one point to being a nighttime duty manager. So when everyone else is asleep, I'm in there stacking shelves and running a team there. And I just had this moment in my mind. I was like, this isn't the life that I was going to have. Shit's got to change here. So as Cam touched on, my old man was investing in property. So I just, tapped him on the shoulder and said, what's the go? What do you do? And as they say in the classics, the rest is history. But I bought a property. Property 1 became property 2. And Cam and I actually bought a property 2 doors away from each other very early in the piece, and developed those into townhouse developments. And as Cam said, there's no favours or anything. It was just we had good advice. Mm-hmm. And there's many pitfalls along the way. And Cam's savage on them. The industry sharks are out there trying to take money out of people's pockets and fleece them of their dough. But we were lucky. My old man said, you do this, and you do that, you do that. And we could follow left foot behind right, and that put us on the path. So, we're pretty privileged now. We can help clients with the same thing. They avoid the pitfalls. But it certainly led to a different life than I was staring down the barrel of when I was stacking shelves in Vampire shift at Safeway.
Shit, yeah. What was for both of you, what was the initial goal? Did you ever have a vision of what, before the property came about? Was there anything that you both, obviously, Al, you were on your way to the NBA, but other than that, was there anything that you had your mind or your sights set on that you wanted to pursue as a career path?
I'll speak for me, and not really. That was part of the reason, I guess. Through school, I wasn't going, I'm going to be a scientist or a lawyer or a rocket scientist. So I was just plodding along, and that led to plodding along at Safeway. had this dream and vision that, you know, one day I'd be this wealthy guy that could do what I wanted, just to know how to go about it. So, yeah, again, property to me, you read the books and, you know, X amount of people make their first million out of property. And I was like, that's a good start for me. So I'll start buying property. And I was one of these guys that was running these elaborate spreadsheets. Like, if I buy a property here and here and here, I'll be worth 600 trillion by the time I'm 40. Hasn't quite worked out that way, but I've done okay out of it. So it was, now I guess I've got the lifestyle I wanted, but it's just fortuitous. I got there through property.
Yeah, for me, mate, I think I had in my head that I wanted to retire by 40. It was pretty clear. Sort of not knowing how I could join the dots was once you got that goal. Really, we talked about before. People set goals. I think goals nowadays are used as an excuse as something you can fail at. So there's a big difference between a goal and aspiration. So, you know yourself, if you set a goal, it has to have an action plan attached to it. Whereas an aspiration is just something, a wish list in the future. So I knew very clearly that I wanted a goal to do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted by the age of 40. I just needed to work out the action plan to get there. So part of all the steps I took along the way was just about joining the dots for me. Now, I think I got there by, you know, my early 30s, but I was very clear on putting an action plan in place. And I talked to year 12 kids about, I do a Money Smarts course for year 12 kids and teach them about the pitfalls of money. We don't talk too much about property, but it's just all the things they can really screw up on. The goals and aspirations are pretty clear when they outline for them. You know, where if you want to be a pro golfer, you know, some people might go, I want to be a pro golfer. The difference between a goal and an aspiration is that having the thought is the aspiration. The goal really has an action plan attached to it. I want to be a pro golfer, so I'm going to play 36 holes every day, and then I'm going to get a professional coach, and then I'm going to do this and do that and do that. So you've got steps to get you there. That's why people fail in their goals, is because they don't have an action plan and a daily thing that you have to do today. The way I talk to my kids, there is no tomorrow. You can only affect your future life by what you do today.
Right.
So, yeah, pull your finger out and have a crack.
Yeah, nice. I like it. Usually when you see someone, you know, that's extremely successful in any field, whether it's sport, business, whatever, there usually comes a large chunk of sacrifice with it as well. Did you guys find, did either of you find that, you know, on the way up, maybe not so much now that you've found a good balance, but as you were kind of early days, were there things that you really had to cut back on? Were there things that you probably ended up, you know, being quite poor at because you were putting all your time and attention into building the business and building the portfolio? And if you could do it again, is there certain things that you think you would change if in hindsight?
Ripping question. We've got a bucket load of different examples. Delaying gratification is the term we use. And so making a sacrifice today, a small sacrifice today, so you can have a much larger result or better outcome in the future. It's sort of like that, you know, the butterfly effect. You heard that term?
Yes.
Not the film Ashton Kutcher was in, but the key butterfly effect is it's a scientific paper from like the 1960s or something like that. So it's basically the flap of a butterfly wing in Brazil creates a tornado in Texas. So it's a tiny little action that happens today, which gets you a massive outcome down the track. There's a really good YouTube clip on it, which basically shows like a tiny little domino, knocks down a bigger domino and bigger domino to the point where it knocks down a 2-story domino. You know, and so something small you can do. So we often talk about it, the sacrifices we made. When I needed my first property deposit, I sold my car. It's a HQ back in the day. It was a pretty mean rig, but sold that and rode a bike for 9 months. I never went to a cafe until I was in my mid-20s. You know, and I worked 3 or 4 jobs at every point in time since I left home at 16 and moved to the city. But nowadays, it amazes me. People simply just don't want to do the hard work, or their lifestyle expenses are so much. But I remember Al had friends of ours early days when you bought your first couple of properties, and friends of ours, we moved to the outer suburbs in the properties we had to live in because that's the area we bought in. And friends were saying, well, we're going to live in inner city Melbourne, and we're going to have the memories, was the term they use. You guys go and chase your dream. We're going to have the memories because we're going to have experiences. Well, now they're still working and we get to have all the memories we want, you know, with our kids. So,
I reckon the time that my conviction was tested the most on this journey was friends were all going to Europe in their early 20s. And I had a handful of properties by the time I was 23, 24. And they're saying, well, don't worry about that. Like, just sell them and come to Europe. And why don't you do this? Or, you know, we're going to have the time of our lives. And I've got to just say it was absolutely so tempting. And other than having that aspiration, vision, whatever, or goal, whatever we're calling it, of what my life would look like, would have been very easy to go and do. But as Kevin touched on, we're fortunate now that we probably get 4 months a year holidays, every school holidays with our kids. There's random ones in between terms. We can go away and do things.
Yeah.
The people who went to Europe aren't doing that. So
yeah,
it paid off for me, but it was absolutely testing me to the limits of whether, I was on the path and making the sacrifice I needed to make, which I wouldn't change for anything now. And even to the point, and the second part of your question, I've got friends who'll take me aside and who've done, let's say, nothing, and say, right, so you've yet to start again. Now, what are you doing? And I said, well, right now I'll get myself a deposit, and then I'll use some equity and buy another one, and I'll literally do everything I did at the start.
Yep.
Right now, the numbers are bigger now because property prices are more.
Yep.
But it's not a lot of rocket science. It just takes the conviction and some sacrifice to go and do it.
Mm. So breaking things right, like bringing them right back down. So for someone, like myself, like I'm not in the property market yet at all. For someone that is just starting out, that has their goal of owning their first property, is there some really kind of simple, actionable tips? Obviously, aside from setting up a bit of a plan to save some cash, but what should people be looking for and looking out for in their first property, or a bit of advice in terms of what type of property to be looking for their first one?
Yeah, I've got a book which I'm happy to give out to people if they go to opencorp.com.au. My 4-year-old, The Property Investor. It's the #1 best-selling book in property investment in Australia. It has been for the last decade. I think I've sold about 120,000 copies nowadays. So it's got street cred. Actually, yeah, this is blowing your own trumpet a bit. But it was #4 on the all-time bestseller list. I couldn't crack #3 back when it was released. 50 Shades of Grey had me covered. So. Yeah, what do you do? Women's romance versus property investment? I had no chance. But if you go back to your question, educating yourself. There's risk involved in property and investment.
Yeah,
that's what it comes down to. Now, it's not a silver bullet. Most people will take advice from Uncle Bob at a barbecue or something they read in the newspaper, or they'll buy something in their local postcode because they feel comfortable with that. Mm-hmm. Because Al and I were in business early days and we understood there's a process to everything, like we talked about getting to your goals. It sort of amazed me that people invested in property that had no process to pick the best investment every time. So we were lucky when we started out. We had Al's old man who was a successful investor, taught us what to do, the basics. But then I started talking to lots of other investors and analysing what they all did. And what I found was, being in business myself, I know that if I set process in place that gives me a measured outcome, I have a successful business. Property investing is exactly the same. There's a set process in place. So I wanted a way to pick through the 10.4 million properties in Australia and pick the best property out of every one of those every single time. So we've got a team of data scientists and analysts that do this for us now regularly and for our clients, but you can't get property A and match it with property B, and then the winner out of that match it with property C and do that 10.4 million times. Yeah. So the process we developed is called MAP, which is market area property. So it's a process of elimination. So we look at capital cities that are not good for investment at that point in time. So we knock out large portions of the options. Yep. Then we look at the capital cities that are good for investment and work out the growth corridors within those cities that are not good for investment, which leaves us good areas or suburbs. And then we find the optimum size and quality property specific to that area based on what we need or what our clients need at that point in time. So there's a process involved in getting it right. So for someone, going back to your question, what should people do? That's why I'm saying to them, I'm happy to offer them the book free of no charge so they can at least educate themselves on the risks involved in investing, which will give them an idea of what they shouldn't do. So investing's about not picking a loser, mate. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, nice.
And I used to say to people who ask that question you've asked, how do you start? I used to say, beg, borrow, steal, do whatever you need to get a deposit. But the step before that is, as Cam said, it's a pretty costly mistake if you fuck it up. So yeah, you've just got to get yourself educated and not make a costly mistake. So know what you're doing, get your deposit, and get in the market as soon as you can.
Yeah, just you kind of touched on what I wanted to ask next. Is it a matter of trying to get in as soon as you can?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And that there's two reasons for that. One, the market's always going upwards. So if you sit out an extra year and the prices go up 50 grand, we just got to save extra deposit.
Yep.
But the other part is lazy money sitting around has a tendency to vanish out of your pockets. So if you're sitting on, a big lump of cash, pretty easy to decide to go on a holiday or buy a new car or upgrade your house or whatever you want to do with it. So it's fighting against you on two fronts. Price is going up, your savings going down. So the sooner you can get in the market, it's out of your hands and you're taking advantage of the growth that's happening.
Saying that, there's and Al's 100% right, but saying that there's been times in our business over the last 20 years when we've been advising clients to purchase. 2010 clients wanted to purchase in Melbourne. We said either purchase in another capital city that we recommend or keep your money in your pocket. Okay. So there's times when you shouldn't invest in property. I think that's what a lot of people don't recognize is there's risk at specific points in time, but every year for the last nearly 25 years, I've purchased property. It's just I reduce risk by picking the right area and the right type of property.
Yeah. What a question that I that just popped up just then. There's a few different identities that I kind of follow along with their content through social media. Not so much for the property side of things, more so just in business. But a few of them I've heard it mentioned a few times, and I could be completely wrong. But what's your opinion on? Do you guys both own where you live? Or do you rent where you live and own property that you rent out?
Yeah, so you're talking about rent vesting, I think is the term you're looking for. So yes, we own our own properties where we live. Saying that, financially, you're much better to, while you're building a portfolio property, we both had, well more than a dozen properties individually or with our now wives, but we held large portfolios ourselves before we bought our first primary place of residence.
Yeah, okay.
So, now that enabled us to go and buy what was back then. I've had 2 dream homes in the time that I've owned my own property. Do you know what I mean? But it usually comes along. Felicity and I were pretty savvy when we were trying to build our first portfolio. We had double-digit portfolio. When she fell pregnant with Hannah, who's now 14, she said, I want our own place.
Yep.
I held off probably for another 2 years before we bought that because I wanted to just chip the property portfolio up a little bit more. But now it's enabled us to live in a acre property in middle ring suburbs of Melbourne, which there's no chance we could have done that if we bought our primary place of residence first and then tried to build the portfolio. Okay. So, and it comes down to taking advantage of some taxation benefits, allowing your property portfolio to grow in value, and you can then release that equity to buy the property that you actually want to live in, as opposed to using earned income or time exchange for money through a job.
Yeah, and as Cam talked about before, one of the sacrifices we both made was moving out to the outer suburbs to buy a property that we could afford to own, to grow that equity base for ourselves. We probably hadn't stumbled across the concept of rent vesting then, and it makes perfect sense. So I would have much rather I'm in Melbourne, obviously, so I would have much rather live in South Yarra, rent an apartment, all the bars and restaurants all around me, and own property out where it made sense to own property. So that really is the overall concept of rent vesting. Live where it makes sense and you want to live, and invest where it makes sense, and those two aren't necessarily the same thing. So it gives you the best of both worlds. Yeah,
what our investment consultants do for clients is outline exactly dollar for dollar based on their income and what they've got available. Outline, all right, so you've got the option to buy your own home. What would the dollar amount be? That's the time frame to pay it off with your income, versus if you were to use that money, rent a ridiculous pad, as Al said, for the next 5 years while you build a portfolio. Here's your outcome in 10 years. So there's the two comparisons. Then people can make their own mind up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For someone that was listening to us at the moment, it has a chunk of cash there. They want to invest and they're tossing up between investing in property or in stocks like shares and stuff. What's your argument for property over the opposite?
Yeah. So to give you an understanding, so just say where I've got Open Corp's got an Australian financial services license. To maintain the position of responsible manager for that license, I need to maintain ongoing education. Part of some of the previous education I've done is diploma in share and investor trading. So in essence, could be a licensed stockbroker, for example. So I'm not totally biased to one over the other. And we don't recommend people just invest in one thing. So I want to make that clear. I'll give you the reason why, because I don't want to give specific or general advice to anyone out there or to you, but I'll tell you the reason why I chose property early days over shares. And I'll give you an example. Let's say that shares beats property as an investment, and I'll give shares a head start at 10% growth and property 8% growth. And we'll run this scenario over 20 years. because the banks deem property. So the difference is, and why property will always beat shares as an investment vehicle comes down to leveraging other people's money or getting money from the bank and borrowing, because you don't invest dollar for dollar. Yeah. So example, if I've got 50 grand and I go to the bank and say I want to invest in shares, based on the bank's risk profile of shares, they'll give me about a 50% LVR, or loan to value ratio, on that. So I'll take 50 grand and I can put another 50 grand of their money into the market. So I'm investing 100 grand. Now I probably wouldn't leverage up any more on that based on the share market. When it does take a dive, it usually takes a dive a good 50%. GFC, recently wasn't quite that much, but if you take a dive on shares more than you've got your loan to value ratio, you can get what's called a margin call. I won't get too technical on you, mate, but basically the bank comes knocking and says, I want my money back. Okay. So let's go hypothetical. So you got 100 grand, you can invest in shares, versus if I've got 50 grand, I'll go to the bank and I'll get a 90% loan to value ratio. I can invest 450 grand into the market. Mm-hmm. So if I invest 450 grand into the market and 100 grand of shares, the shares over a 20-year period, because I've done the calcs previously, will come to compounding growth rate of 10% of about 610 grand. So not a bad investment. I put 50 grand in, 20 years later, I've got 610 grand. If I put $450,000 into the market in property, over the same period of time, it's worth about 2.1 million.
Right.
So at an 8% growth rate. Yep. So it's not a matter of which investment's better. It's a matter of how much leverage you can get, and because the banks deem property half the risk of shares, property will always outperform the shares. So hopefully that gives you a snapshot, and hopefully my premise of that means that I'm not biased on one over the other.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, 100%. I want to kind of just move a little bit away from the specifics of the property side of things. And as well, guys, for everyone that's tuned in, I'll have the links to Open Corp's website and socials and all that type of stuff in the show notes. So you can go and grab the book and check out all the services and everything at any stage. For both of you, so I've heard anyway, you both weapons yourselves in terms of physical fitness. How long have you both been into the physical side of things in terms of training and taking care of your body, which then I think is pretty self-explanatory, carries over to most other aspects of your life as well, whether it be productivity at work.
I can tell you that as I said earlier, when I was a young fella, I was very much into sport, and I probably had injury. I had injury when I was 18 and probably went away from the fitness stuff for a little while. But I can tell you the exact day that I got back into fitness. Cam and I had been on a conference in China with LG, and we're on the way back. We stopped through Macau, and I just felt so bloated and disgusting. And I saw a photo of myself, and I was like, that is just absolutely horrible.
10 days on the
booze. I remember having a discussion. What's that, mate?
10 days on the booze will do that.
Yeah, just was coming out of every pore. And I'm not saying that I look like him, but I said to Cam, Brad Pitt's not fit because he wants to be. He's fit because he pays a trainer. Yeah. And we had a business at that point that was doing reasonably well for ourselves. And I said, that's it. I'm getting myself a trainer. And I came back, went into personal training 5 days a week, did that for a couple of years, then moved on to group fitness through CrossFit, and then back to personal training. So ever since literally that day, I've had a personal trainer that I've done minimally 3 sessions a week, but sort of up to 4 and 5 a week that I punch out to make sure that, I'm getting pushed along.
Yeah.
And when it's at its best, and you touched on it earlier, if I've got goals, like I say, all right, I'm going to increase my bench by this much, or I'm going to lose this much body fat, or I'm going to do that, that's when the training's the best, because I've got extra motivation that gets me out of bed every day to go and do it.
Yeah, I think just before you answer there, Cam, what's your experience in terms of it carrying over to productivity with work and all other areas of your life as well? Because I think that's such an important thing. And I'm fortunate enough to work with some pretty interesting clients myself, and a lot of them are in the corporate world. And the feedback I get over and over again, particularly from those that haven't trained flat out previously, is just cannot believe how much more energy they have throughout the day, how much better they sleep at night, their mental clarity throughout the day just improves. What's your experience been with that side of things?
Okay. Sorry, Cam. All I would add to that is that it's also an amazing stress reliever. I can walk into the gym with 1,000 thoughts going through my mind and just get slammed for an hour and walk out relaxed, because you haven't had time to think about it, and it just clears your mind and gets you grounded. And having the routine of the training in place as well helps with the rest of my routine. It keeps me grounded, as I said, and going through the motions rather than just things being ad hoc and random. It's a big difference.
Yeah, I think planning your training out is a big thing. So I plan my week out. Literally, my diary's blocked out. I've got time in there for study. I've got blocked out before and after school. I coach a bucket load of kids' sports, so 4 different basketball teams, and help out with footy and that sort of thing. So I block out those times. I also block out times when I train. So minimally 2 hours a day and get out. Some of that time might be spent, go for an hour walk with the wife, for example, or the dog. But I make sure that I block out. I think the key though is Al said, is making sure that you actually structure your training. So, and as you know, if you just roll up to the gym, you end up doing the same old. So I literally go, I need to shock my body and continually push my body to do something new or change it up, because otherwise you get used to it. And because I'm planning it out, you're right, you feel bucket loads better, you sleep well, it's slotted into the day. I know when that gets done, and then my rest of the week just flows around it. But that's a priority.
100%.
Yesterday I did a...
Sorry, you go. Okay, you go. Al.
Sorry, mate. I was going to say, yesterday I did a 10-minute HIIT workout. It was 6 cal assault bike and 6 box jump overs.
Yep.
10 minutes. And when I'm laying on the floor, nearly dead at the end, the furthest thing for your mind is work. Like, it's literally just, can I keep breathing?
Yeah.
It is just amazing.
It's
difference to make.
I just find a carryover is big as well. Like, obviously my actual work is the whole health and fitness side of things, but you know, we'll touch on it soon in terms of maybe some morning routines and things that you guys like to follow. But I know that, you know, example I use is the cold shower. Like I do a cold shower every morning as soon as I jump out of bed. And it's just like that moment of feeling completely present, the moment of like feeling super uncomfortable, not wanting to do it, but then building the momentum on the discipline side of things, of knowing that every single day I've done it, I'm going to do it again the next day. And then all of a sudden the rest of the day, all the little things you can't be fucked doing become easy, because you've already done the hardest thing you're going to do for the day first thing. It sets the tone for everything else, which I find.
How long have you been doing that?
I've been doing that now since about the start of 2019.
Wow.
I got into I listened to I first started after listening to I think it might have been Rogan's podcast with Wim Hof, and then I went to one of his workshops here in Melbourne, and then I fucking love it now. And I mean, obviously don't push it on my clients, but I try and encourage most of them to give it a go. And again, similar to the training benefits, like I was training a guy this morning who, when I first told him, he just looked at me like I had 2 heads. He's like, fuck, there's no chance I'm doing that. And now he can't go a day without it. He loves it. Yeah,
it's awesome. So my routine is get up and put my gear on in the morning. But one of my, one of our wife's cousins, Johnny, he swears by the cold showers and baths, and he talked me into having it. And I'll have a hot bath after exercise, and then I'll jump straight into the cold shower straight after it. So that's how I hit it. And it shocks you into gear for the rest of the day. But I remember having the first ice bath, and I've jumped in there, and I actually called Johnny. I go, "What the fuck have you done to me? My balls are burning." He goes, "You've got to leave your jocks on, mate."
Mate, it's a super uncomfortable feeling, but again, it's just kind of it sets a tone for everything else, and the discipline side of things for me is the best thing, because I mean, I love the feeling afterwards. I love the feeling that you get mentally and physically, but let's be honest, it fucking sucks, especially for 4:30 in the morning. You get up and jump straight into a freezing shower in a Melbourne winter. It's not exactly ideal. But the momentum that it starts to build, start to stack those habits day in, day out. And as you touched on earlier, Cam, it's about the small things done exceptionally well on a daily basis that give you those big results.
Yeah. You're a better man than me, because I was doing that about 2 years ago. I think I got to 4 months or thereabouts. And my one mistake was I had a hot shower. And I thought, fuck this. What am I having cold showers for? I was done. That was it. One warm shower and I was finished.
On the we just touched on physical health. What about on the mental side of things? How have you guys have you dived into much of that, like whether it be meditation, whether it be journaling? I'm not sure if that's something that you guys both do, and if you do, was there a moment that or a certain event that kind of led you down the path of actually giving it a go? I mean, now these days, thankfully, it's becoming a little bit more mainstream and people are a bit more open to it now, particularly in work environments. I think it's becoming a lot more popular and people are putting a lot more attention towards the mental side of things. But for both of you, is it something that you do on a daily basis?
Definitely meditation is something I'll do. And I do at least maybe half an hour to an hour of yoga a day on top of my exercise. But that's usually a block out period And I did martial arts for nearly 20 years, 15 years when I was a kid, you know what I mean, up until early 20s. So meditation was a large part of that teaching that I went through. So I've carried that on. I think it gives me a bit of balance nowadays in business life. We can sort of calm yourself out when there's any stress. We do a lot of talks for professional athletes, you know, all of the NBL team, A-League soccer team. We were in at Collingwood the other week doing basically education for, you know, the players and a lot of the sporting enhancement. What is required for them as well as our clients is once you've got clarity over your finances, one of the biggest stresses for people is their finance. So once they've got their financial aspect taken away, then it comes down to just enjoying life. But if you're clouded with financial stress, that's one of the biggest factors for men and women of why they can't focus on the rest of their life. So getting your financial aspect set is right, and then you can start breaking down different components of your life. So I haven't tried journaling. My wife does. Forgot the guy. It's pretty. Is it the Resilience Project?
Yeah, Hugh. We've had him on.
Hugh, yeah.
Before, yeah. You have to suss out his episode.
Yeah, so my wife's right into that at the moment. She's singing praises, but I think because I've spent so much time in the business world and listening to different business motivators and coaches and guides, a lot of what he's teaching, I've got my head around. Do you know what I mean? But it really helps people if they're just coming off a raw bat. I think it's a really good platform for someone starting out, trying to get some structure to their life for sure.
Definitely. How about you, Al?
Yeah, I think Cam and I have both been fortunate. This probably spans back to when we started our investing journey and through the business years, which, you know, there's different times it's very stressful and times where things are great. But what we've probably been fortunate is we've been able to leverage each other. You're not internalising things yourself too much. And we've coined this term, and it's probably a bit derogatory, but we call it single employee syndrome, which, you know, those guys who work alone and they've just got their own thoughts themselves all day, every day that sort of steamroll out of control at times, whereas we're lucky you can just bounce it off the other person because they know exactly where you're sitting, where you're at, what your journey's been, and you can just get that sense of reason or just advice or, you know, just to get it off your chest, have a sounding board. So
we call it talking off the ledge.
Pretty useful tool.
We talk each other off the ledge if ever we're stressed is the term we use.
On the topic of the mental side of things, I would love to kind of understand both of your, I guess, processes around a failure or a mistake or a low point. So I don't necessarily need to know what the actual low point was, but when you guys do have maybe a big loss or a deal that doesn't go as planned or whatever it may be, whether it be with work or outside of work, what's the process to keep yourself on track, to make sure you get back on track as quickly as possible and not let that manifest into just a bunch of fuck ups and a whole bunch of negativity?
Yeah, we've been fortunate in our property investment journey that because we identify risk, we haven't made mistakes there. And even for our clients, none had to sell through the GFC or through the COVID period. So financially, we've been all right. I think we started a recruitment business back, I think 6 months before the GFC, which that business failed. But I think having a soundboard and just continually going back to what's important in life. I'm okay. My family's okay. My own home's protected. I've got a base level of investments which are protected. Yes, there's a screw up. Does that affect me overall? Can I get over it? How do I move forward? I think people who bet everything are probably ones that take big risks on things that can vanish. It's probably stressful, but we probably haven't had to deal with the depth of failure because we've financially having a property portfolio gives you a really good foundation for your wealth. So that protects the family, which is probably saves us a lot of those really high level anxiety feelings that some people get.
Yeah, I think personally, it's when you don't know how deep the hole is, and you sort of lose that element of control a little bit. Like you don't know exactly how bad things could be.
Yeah.
But I've always found that once I've got a grasp on exactly where things are sitting, I can pretty logically, as Cam just talked about, put myself back in a headspace that can deal with it and get a plan to move forward and step out of it. But it's just when you're sitting there not sure how big a hole you're in or the uncertainty or the unknown of where things are going, maybe lost the control a little bit.
Yeah.
That's the stressful part. And once you've got that back in the driver's seat, I've always found that I can absolutely talk myself out of it and put a plan forward and get moving ahead from there.
I think we deal with it a fair bit with clients who contact us and one that ring true is a couple lost everything in the GFC, contacted us in their 50s and went literally, remember Mark, his name is, he's quite vocal on our social media. He goes, I came to Open Corp and he goes, I was fucked. You know what I mean? So being able to work through other people's financial problems like that, you're not just trying to work through their financial problems, you're trying to rebuild their mental state at the same point in time. So I think we're used to doing that time and time again with clients, that it's quite natural for us to sort of have that foundation.
And just to clarify, Cam, you're saying he's fucked before he got to us?
Fucked before he got to us. Yeah, he's now got 6 properties. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So they're building their dream home in Bateman's Bay on the clifftop currently. But So
how about you, mate? How do you do it?
I've actually found the process of journaling, as I touched on before, super important. And I think the meditation side of things as well. I used to be the type of person that would kind of let one kind of small thing manifest into the next and kind of let it consume me a bit. But I've come over the years, a bunch of different setbacks where not so much with work, but more so physically, like a bunch of surgeries, like with basketball, even as an example, like I moved here for that. And then that got completely finished from an ankle reco. Like all these little setbacks have just kind of helped me over the years. And I think it's definitely because I've actually had to go through it. But now it's just my whole mindset now is just focusing on what I can control. So a good example would be last year during lockdown. It was like, I can't go to work, or I can't train anyone in the gym, or I can't even train them outside. Yes, it's fucked, but me sitting here whinging about it or talking to every person I see about it or posting on Instagram about it is not going to change it. So how can I adapt as quickly as possible to make sure that I can just make do with what I've got now? And that's all worth my time and energy. And I think for me, that's been a game changer. It's just it's helped me be able to really just stay super positive. Like last year I had my shoulder reco in Feb, and just as I got back to training properly, I had to get my knee done. So it was like, fuck, I had every reason to just be miserable bastard and sit around and talk about it. Yeah. It was just like, well, it is what it is. Focus on what you can control, and that's it.
Yeah. And you know why that's so relevant at the moment? You have so many conversations with people who are just angry, pissed off at the government because there's lockdowns. They're, having temper tantrums all over the joint. And you just feel like I do anyway, saying, well, you can't control that. So there's no point letting it ruin your day. Yeah. No point sitting there angry and stewing on the couch. You can't change what they're doing. Move on. Like it's a waste of your mental capacity even thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always break down, I think, into 4 quadrants when we're trying to get people to reset their mindset. And if we break it down into family, health, lifestyle, and money is the 4th one. Yep. So if you've got set goals or set outcomes you want to achieve, or comfort levels in when what's your family life like, what's your lifestyle like, which the 2 are very different. What my lifestyle is, like Al said, we want to take 4 months a year holiday, but we want to spend that with our family.
Yeah.
Having a health goals in place enables you to continue to do that and feel good about yourself. But the money quadrant is really the dollar amount, because a lot of people go, how much money do you want? That's their goal. Your goal is, what sort of family environment do you want? What lifestyle do you want? What's your health like? Money's the reason, is the fulfiller that enables you to do all those things. Yeah. So once you break those down, if you do have a screw up in one of them, go back to your quadrants. What am I trying to achieve? What's my baseline of happiness? Yeah. So we talk to clients a lot about that, but I think you're right. If journaling is working for some people, if meditation's working, knowing what's going to reset you and get you back on the right track, having a fallback rather than a pitfall is probably a good thing.
I think this is just slightly off topic with that, but having like an open or a growth mindset is super important in anything that you do.
Yeah.
How do you guys, and by the sounds of it, you both got it pretty well figured out, but how do you guys continue to upskill and continue to have the open and growth mindset to continually learning and growing as you move forward, even though you've been in the industry for so long? Like, what's the process? Do you have mentors that you like to work with? Is it, what's that look like for you guys?
You want me to go, Cam? You go?
Yeah, you go, mate. You
go. To me, and we said it very early in this discussion, it's goals is the key one, and they're always changing and adapting. And I think the day that I was working my vampire shift at Safeway and had this light bulb moment that life was shit and I had to fix it, the goals aren't what they are now, but certainly things that I sit there now and go, I'm about to turn 44. by 50, I want to have this. By 60, I'm going to need to get my ass in gear to get to that.
Yeah.
So just by constantly driving myself to be doing more and doing better, that helps my mind be active firstly, because once you sort of start thinking like that, you start thinking, how do I do it? What do I need to do next to achieve it? What do I need to learn to get there? And they're thoughts that drive me. I mean, everyone might be different, but I've always found that I'm absolutely goal-driven. If there's not one, then things don't feel right. So I'm constantly setting that benchmark higher and higher. And if I had looked at when I was 20, what I'd have by 40, I would have absolutely been, well, shit, I didn't expect that. But now that I'm there, it's not enough and I need to do more. So that's what keeps me striving to have that growth mindset.
Yeah, I think we break it down further with business. We reassess our business goals regularly and what we want to do there, what we want to achieve for our clients, achieve for the business and different divisions. Personally, we reassess our goals and discuss those between each other pretty regularly and what we want to achieve. My wife, Felicity, and I, we talk about what sort of family environment we want, or what holidays we want, coming up, those sort of things. But I keep coming back to most people just think things happen. And I keep coming back to there is only today. People always try and put things off. So I'm going to eat better tomorrow. I'll exercise tomorrow. I'll worry about my finances tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. It's like the Matrix. There is only literally right now. What you shove in your mouth now, the run you go for now, the education, go and buy the investment property now, go and work out what your borrowing capacity is. You can only do now. There's nothing else.
Yeah. What's the saying that a goal without a plan is just a dream. That's it holds true so often. It's a topic I always talk about pretty much fucking every end of every December, at the start of every January, when people are setting their, New Year's resolution goals. Is just, there is no reverse engineering. And again, coming back to, it's not, I promise I'm not trying to convert you both into start fucking journaling, but that's something that I find super helpful. Is every fucking morning, it's writing down. It's like, revisiting what the big goals are, writing down the small tasks that need to be done today to make sure that those big goals happen. It's just continually reverse engineering exactly what needs to happen to make them work. Because if you don't revisit it, then you really are. You get 6 months down the track and you haven't even started.
Yeah, I think I might use a bit a different realm of journaling, mate. It's probably the same thing, but I've got a must-do list and I've got a would like to do list, and a lot of that shit gets confused. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The must-do, the big ticket items that have to happen today have to happen, and then I've got a list of the things that usually distract you, but I'd like to do. Do you know what I mean? So maybe that's the same a mini version of journaling, but I know what my wife's going through at the moment. She gets the shits when I read her journal, but that's all right.
Fellas, that pretty much wraps us up. Look, I've taken a heap away from the chat. I've thoroughly enjoyed having you both on. So much appreciated, guys. And like I said, I'll have all the links to everything in the show notes below. If there's anything else you'd like to add, feel free. But for everyone who's tuned in, if you've enjoyed the episode and taken some value away, we'd love for you to take a screenshot and post on your Instagram story for us straight away. Tag us in your stories. We'd love to get your feedback. But thanks for joining me, Cam and Al.
Thanks for having us, Dan. Champion.
Thanks, mate. Good to be here. Talk soon.